This podcast is brought to you by Rise Make Life Workout, a health and self-development platform dedicated to helping busy, everyday Kiwis manage their physical health and upskill their mental well-being.
Through sharing relatable and practical content from health practitioners, as well as showcasing interesting stories from interesting people.
For more shows, content, events, and coaching, head to our website, www.rise-workout.com. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the High Frequency Club podcast. My name is Marwin Salario.
And I'm Sinead Bierman. We're here talking all things self-development, growth and mindset.
In this week's episode, we chat to Guy Wills, mental health advocate and alcohol recovery facilitator. He talks about his journey to sobriety and that pivotal moment where he had to look himself in the mirror and tell himself that he had to make a change. And also we talk about the spectrum of what an alcoholic means, because I think there's this traditional view that you have to be a certain way to then be labeled as an alcoholic, but there's actually more ways to be able to label that.
And Guy spoke a lot to the underlying internal drivers behind his drug and alcohol use, the tools he learnt through going to AA and other avenues that have helped him become sober and stay sober, and things that he now does to prioritise his mental health and continue his self-development.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaways from me here was that it was actually less about alcohol, or alcohol was a symptom to the mental health issues that he had going on. And I think there's so many people that can benefit from listening to this because the booze culture is so prevalent here in New Zealand.
And Australia, definitely. Be sure to let us know once you've had a listen, team. Share your feedback with us. Make sure you're following along at the High Frequency Club on all audio platforms, as well as Instagram and YouTube.
Enjoy the episode. So, alcohol recovery facilitator, mental health advocate, we're usually a sum of our past experiences to get us where we are now. So could you describe us about some key moments in your life that has helped shape the person that you are today?
So I think key moments, I think, is my past relationship has got me to where I am today. My current relationship has definitely got me to where I am today. I think as well, just growing up, surrounded by booze and that kind of environment. My mum and dad they thought they were doing me a favour when I was in my teens by giving me a glass of wine with my dinner on a Sunday and stuff like that. So, and they were educating me about wine and all this stuff, and they were, but I think it kind of led to that. I think also when I started senior rugby, I think that I was very anxious. Didn't know how, but I didn't know what anxiety was then. I just thought, oh my God, I don't like this. I'm going to play rugby with a bunch of men and I'm 17 and I don't know what. But one thing that I did know how to do was drink. I'd already started my kind of drinking career in my teens, like late school, all that business. I was like, right, okay, I can have a beer. I can get through this. And it was another beer, and then another beer, then a few shots, and then all that kind of. So I think those kind of moments definitely pushed me towards that way. And then I was always a bit of a class clown and that kind of thing. So I saw a great opening with alcohol and being a class clown, because it meant the more I could lubricate my imagination to how much of an idiot I could be and seek acceptance, then it meant that I could really run with that. And that's what I did. The amount of daft stuff I did drunk just to seek somebody's appreciation of myself. But all at the same time I was doing that, it was mainly anxiety. I wasn't high. Like, all the guys I was with were men who were earning well, had good relationships with women, not girls, and all this. And I was this young 17-year-old, and I'm just trying to make my way in the world and seek acceptance of guys who were lifing. So yeah. But that was it, really. I don't think. Yeah, I think those are probably the most things where I think that's kind of shaped where I've got to. I had a good upbringing. Do you know what I mean? I'm not somebody who my life wasn't bad. We've all had things that go on in life and have got us to where we're at. But I was very lucky. I grew up with quite strict parents, but they were in a good way. But my mum was hard out for education. work hard and you'll like get what you sow, kind of thing. But that's also had an effect with how I've been. I've always strived to be a perfectionist almost and make her proud. So yeah, so there's always been that kind of in the back of my mind. I've got 2 older sisters as well who've both done really well for themselves, got great families. So, and they'd already done it. They were quite a bit older than me, so they'd done really well. So then I always felt there was that kind of pressure on myself. So yeah, that's kind of where I like my kind of background really, I think. But yeah, definitely rugby's had a big part of that and all that side of stuff. And then I've just developed that pressure on myself throughout.
And was that rugby here in New Zealand or?
No, rugby in the UK. So when I was about 7, I started rugby, which was kind of weird because obviously in the UK, like soccer is like the big thing, especially in Manchester. You got like Manchester United and Manchester City. It's all like, right, okay. So and I was rubbish at that. So I was like, I'll play a sport where nobody knows if I'm good or not. So I did that. And I played rugby and did boxing through my teens, and I just loved it, and I just loved I just loved it. I loved it. It was good. So that played a huge part in my discipline, I think, growing up a little bit. I kept me focused every Tuesday for Thursday training and helped. Like
You mentioned before that your past relationship was a key moment. What did you mean by that?
I think because there was part of it where there's a lot of box ticking, I think, with it, and I think there's still that kind of, if I do this, this and this and this, I will achieve happiness. And that's kind of what it was. Like I went to university, I went to university first and dropped out of that, then went to drama school, and then went to...
Trippy, you went to drama school?
Yeah, bro.
That's so trippy, Jay.
Yeah.
Same.
Did you?
Yeah, bro. I went to That's so trippy.
That's good.
That's so trippy. And I've fucking done boxing, so I was saying
yeah?
Anyway, this is about you. I just heard that and I was like, what?
Yeah, bro. So I did... So maybe I should have touched upon that then as well. Like, my parents were big into acting and theatre and stuff like that, so they had their own... theatre companies, so to speak. Where a lot of local kids would go and put on shows every year, pantomimes and things like that. So I grew up with that, which is, again, on reflection, is another reason why that's something where I think I'm a slight attention seeker. Do you know what I mean? And not in a way that I'm always trying, but I think that makes me feel seen. So I would be I'd try and do that, and I felt like I got my parents' appreciation when I did a good performance and stuff like that, especially when they were the kind of leaders within that kind of group there. So I always thought, right, if I do well at this, then I get seen and stuff. Because they were busy people, they had jobs, mum was always cleaning and doing all those bits as well, and you know what I mean, just being a mum. But she saw me when I was performing, so I think that was another reason why I always pushed for that kind of thing. Yeah,
interesting.
So yeah.
Do you think being like the class clown also played into that? Like for me, I got into acting because I was a class clown.
Yeah.
But I was a class clown because I've always thought that I was dumb. So instead of being smart, I made people laugh. So I was like, cool, this is my way of being accepted. Definitely. I'll just be the funny guy. But in classrooms, the teachers would punish me for it because, of course, you're disrupting the fucking class.
100%. And I also think with people like us, I would imagine if you're anything like me, you would hyper focus on things that really interest you. Do you know what I mean? A little bit. So you'd kind of be like, right, straight onto it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's. But if it's something that's not really interesting, maths or English, you suddenly go, oh right, okay, well I'm bored. Yeah. And if the teacher's not bringing you into that and engaging you within that class, then suddenly you're like, okay, I'm good at making people laugh. I'll do that.
I was just so fortunate that like the drama teacher, the last class that would take me, otherwise I had to leave school, was drama. Yeah. And the teacher, Miss Gowdy, was like, yo, this dude's got talent. Like he can be an actor. Because he makes, instead of punishing me for being the class clown, she nurtured it. Yeah. And then that's how I ended up going to acting school after high school. It was just trippy, bro.
Yeah, nice.
So you mentioned before as well that you were box ticking certain external factors.
Oh yeah, so sorry, yeah. So I just think and that's why I mentioned my exes. I think there's a lot of that, and I got it to a point where I'd got a house, we'd got married and all that, and I just think then, but it wasn't happiness. I'd not gained it. I'd not, and I felt a bit lied to by life a little bit. This kind of false ideology that had been created beforehand, that if you do all this, you get happiness. And I was like, no, it's not that. I've not got it. Why have I not got it? And I think that probably exacerbated my drinking and my drug taking, is because then I was thinking, fuck, well, and I say it like, it's you. With alcohol and drugs, for me, there's a lot of an aspect of wanting to escape from what my reality was. And then since stopping that, it's about creating a life that you don't want to escape from. And I think that's where it came for me. I didn't want to keep running away from it. I didn't want to, I wasn't happy, and there was some home truths that I had to accept, and I wasn't perfect either. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot in that my ex had to put up with, which wasn't great. And not very nice, and I wasn't supportive in certain aspects. But it was what it was, and it kind of got me to where I am now, and it's taken a lot of hard work, and it's all that business. But yeah, definitely with a lot of. And I think, like I said, my older sisters, they'd already got their families and stuff set, and I was like, well, that's what I have to do. And my mum was quite pushy for that a little bit, really. She was like, yeah, you need to go to... I remember once saying that I wanted to be like a tradie, early doors, and she was like, no, you need to university, you need an education, which I think is kind of just the mindset of that age group at the time.
So they very valued education.
Yeah,
before
and I think that's because that was pushed onto them. It kind of, it rolls downhill a little bit. Whereas now I've got the point of view where it's like education is your first point of debt. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of times, a lot of people who go and do all that kind of side of university they come out of it going, why have I just done that?
There's other ways of getting that education without necessarily going to university.
Yeah, and I think it almost concretes you into that position for the rest of your life. And sometimes, for me, I still don't really know what I want to do. Do you know what I mean? I'm always like, oh, well, that interests me. I want to do that, and that interests me. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's...
Yeah. I want to know, at what point with your drinking and drug taking, etc., did you realise, shit, this is detrimental and I am using this to escape? Was there ever a point back then when you were...
Yeah, no, I think it hit me in my mid-20s. Yeah. I knew for a long time that I was a bit of a character of myself, and that it was at the detriment of my health. But I think I needed to be needed, so I had to continue that path. I didn't know who I was without it. Yeah. And I think that's the sad part about it, is because I was happily to go down that road still and be upset, but not be upset as in straight up emotion, but I was happy to go down that path of where live fast, die young mentality. And YOLO had a completely different mentality for me. It was, you only live once, so do everything. Do you know what I mean? Be a dickhead. Take all the drugs. Do all that, because it doesn't matter anyway. But then since getting kind of sober and stuff, I come from a mentality where it's like, you only live once, so be careful. Treat these moments as precious and squeeze the juice out of them. Don't throw them away frivolously. Yeah.
Was there any key moments where you're like,
I need to sort myself out?
Yeah, well, here or back in the UK? Well, there probably was. I think in the UK, I'd split up, split up from my partner. My mum had passed away just recently then as well, so probably 8 months before. Maybe a bit longer, about a year before. And I was just at home with my dad, and we're both drinking, and I was just like, where am I going with this? What is alcohol gonna bring to me? And in my head I thought, right, okay, go to New Zealand, go to the other side of the world, and that'll all fix itself. And it was a lie. So I then obviously came out here, and I went into default mode because I was still anxious. I still had depression there. I was still super anxious. I had a lot of baggage with me because of what had been going on recently, and I was just like, I don't know how to talk to people properly without a drink and all that kind of stuff. So then I ended up going back to default, and that's what I did. I just got to New Zealand and partied harder than ever. Went just hard out, and was in like a hostel for a year when I got here. And all my money, I came to Auckland, partied a lot, spent a lot of money very quickly, then went to Wellington, where I I ran out of money in Wellington completely. Like, I was just like, yeah, it was grim. But lucky enough, because I'd been so good at partying in Auckland, the hostel that I'd been staying at were like, if you come back, we'll give you a job here, and you can pay for your accommodation while you're here out of that. So I was like, right, okay, I'll go back up and party a bit more. So then I went back up, came back up to Auckland, and that's what I did. I did that for a year. I stayed in a hostel for a year, and it took me probably about 8 months to go from the hostel on Queen Street to discover Britomart.
Oh, wow.
Jesus.
Yeah, because I was never out of there. All I did was, I was in there. It was like a little prison, but it was great. I had really good friends in there, and we partied, and we were all in the same boat, but we'd like go off and go to party all night till like 6 a.m, then sleep, then get up at like 2 o'clock, go across the road to McDonald's or Burger King, come back and do it all over again. It's
Every day,
insane.
most days?
Every day.
Wow.
Every day. And then obviously, if you do that a lot, your mental health gets a bit fucked.
Yeah.
So
So what did that look like when you're like, yo, my mental health is fucked?
Oh, so it had been coming. It had been slowly like trickling through, and I was having a lot more darker days than I was good ones, and I was having to party to level out from feeling so shit. So I was like, fuck, I need to go. And my shifts, I was looking forward to my shift because I knew I'd get free booze. So I'd work on a bar, I'd have a few shots, I'd like go and all that business, and then and a few of my friends in there noticed it and were like, right, okay, we're going to look for a place, you should move in with us. And luckily enough, that's what I did. I moved out and moved in with a few friends. But the partying still kept going a little bit.
It's trippy, eh? Change your externals. You think that things are going to change. You change different countries. We can change different houses even, different suburbs and shit
But if
like
our
that.
behaviors are like internally driven,
Yes.
it'll still come up.
Yeah. Same shit, different place.
Yeah, unless you're willing to look in the mirror, like hard, like real hard, that shit will follow you. Like
When did you look in the mirror?
So I think, this was a bit, I met my new partner over here, and there was definitely a big look in the mirror originally when I met her, because I got to the point with COVID where I was drinking like 4 bottles of wine a day. So I was going hard out during COVID, and then I met her, and like most people, she didn't appreciate that behaviour.
Well, hold on, because of COVID, you weren't working, so it was just easier to drink?
and I was getting paid because like most people, I was getting paid and stuff, like I'd say most people, I work in construction, so I was getting money.
Payments out there,
So I was like, what shall I do with this money? Like smart people would have saved it. I didn't. I just bought noodles and bought wine every day. So I did that. I met her. My drinking still wasn't great, but I could curtail it a little bit, and then there'd be some days where I'd just let the chaos happen, where I'd just drink and I'd accept the argument the next day a little bit, I think subliminally.
She didn't drink?
Oh, no, she did, but just not as much as me.
Yeah, right.
And nowhere near as much as me. So she'd been on her own little journey a bit. She'd amazingly lost heaps of weight, cut her weight, and drink is a big part of that. So she wanted to lose weight, so she cut her drink, and she didn't really drink that much. That wasn't her thing. So she went. She just didn't. That wasn't her thing anymore. So
How'd you meet her?
Through my flatmate. They'd been mates when they first arrived in New Zealand, and then she'd pop round and all that business. So and then probably like a year or so goes by. There'd been a couple of hairy moments during that, and then it was my birthday, and I went out, and my anxiety was, I was tired, and I think when I'm tired, most people I know of, their anxiety starts to flare up quite a bit when they're tired. Hence the reason why I think it's good on a Friday when people, most people are tired on a Friday.
Yeah.
They then have to go to after work drinks, and then they all drink too much because they feel anxious about the whole situation. It's mental. Then I was just one day I had friends round. I got super anxious, then got very kind of paranoid that lads were trying it on with her, and I had to be macho and all that business. And I just lost the plot a little bit. And the next day, she turned up. She left the house. She just didn't want to see me, and I was just like, and in my head I was like, it's fucking happening again. I'm gonna lose somebody that matters to me, and it's my fault. And that was the biggest look in the mirror. And then she went. I didn't see her for like the whole day. Just sat there stewing, like, what the fuck? And beer fears creeping in as well. And I'm like, oh. And then she came back, and I said to her, I'm going to go to the AA tomorrow. I'm going to go and do that. Now, don't get me wrong, there was, like most people, I'd think that's like, oh no, I'm too big for the AA, I don't need that. But I knew in the back of my mind I had to surround myself with people that wanted the same as me. And that's what the AA gave me. Now, I was only there for 12 weeks. I wasn't somebody who was... I was bad, but not in the way that people like the stereotypical getting up in the morning, needing a drink. I'd not got to that point yet, but I wasn't far off it. I wasn't far off it at all. So then and that was it. And she said, I'll come with you if you want. And she came with me. I went there. Oh yeah, that was heavy.
How many drinks were you having by that point?
Oh, well, I was somebody who would go to the bar and get a shot with every drink. And that would be
every day?
No. So in that kind of, I would recover Monday to Thursday, then I'd drink Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah.
And then that was just kind of the same. I got a little bit better when I met my partner, but it was still there.
See, because that's relatively normal drinking behaviour.
Yeah.
Not definitely Friday, Saturday. Shot with every drink.
You look at the UFC on a Sunday now, you've just got to go to a bar and most people have got a beer with them. Not like you go into a pub and you see everybody with a cup of tea on a Sunday, do you know what I mean? And it's just another excuse.
I think it was just clear to point that out, but just in case people are listening and being, oh yeah, I have to be having a drink a day to be able to go to AA, but that wasn't the case.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think that's a good point you bring up, is the fact, I was a generally Friday, Saturday drinker.
Yeah, and then you went to AA.
Yeah, but I used to get blackout drunk, and I used to cause chaos. When I went out with friends, I was like up on tables, getting kicked out of bars, and it seemed novel then. It seemed funny.
Yeah.
But it isn't funny. Like, it wasn't funny. It wasn't... I was deeply depressed. I was deeply anxious. I dealt with struggled with social anxiety, and it was all... That was just ego. It was just an ego, completely.
When you showed up to AA, bro, what expectations did you have? Were you quite resistant? Were you quite open? Yeah, you were quite resistant?
Like, it wasn't resistance, but I just thought, oh, I shouldn't be here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just thought, I know everybody, like, I just do what everybody else does. I go out to brunches, I get drunk at these, like, bottomless brunches, I get drunk at wineries, I do what everybody else does. Why have I... But I knew I had to, I just knew I had to, so I remember going in, went with my partner, I was like the youngest one in there.
You took your partner with you?
Yeah, so she was great, she supported me, she came in with me. She sat next to me, kept asking if I was all right, and because I was still slightly hungover as well, and they clocked me as well. Like, I was in there, they're like, "Oh, do you want to talk?" And I was thinking, "Oh, not really." And then I said, "Hi, my name's Guy. I'm an alcoholic," and just broke down in tears in the middle of all these random people. But as I did that, the weight of the world flew off me. And there wasn't, in my head, I didn't think I was an alcoholic, and I still kind of don't think I am. although I know there's that like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde there, 100%, and I think I've got an issue with that. I've got an issue with alcoholism, but not like AUD, because they said that you shouldn't say alcoholic, say AUD, like alcohol use disorder, because there's obviously different spectrums of it, and different people use it in different ways. But I don't like to put myself in a box, and that's what I found, and that's what I didn't like about the AA, is people were there, put themselves in that box, and I felt they were restricted to that box. And that, if it works for them, that's perfect. That's okay. I'm not dissing that. But what I'm saying is that I didn't want to be, and I introduce myself
as an alcoholic. Versus
hi,
maybe just like, I struggle with alcohol. Yeah, and it'd be thing, and a bit more of a general umbrella term. Because like you said, there would be a spectrum from people that 7 days a week, it's from when they wake up in bed at 8 a.m, they're drinking all day long until they go to bed.
On it, and I didn't feel dependent on it. But I had a me problem, not an alcohol problem. Alcohol never changed what it did. Do you know what I mean?
That's an interesting separation.
Do you know what I mean? Like alcohol never had done what it says on the tin. It's a potent drug that will get you to where you need to be. And I abused it. It's like a surfer going into the sea. And it doesn't matter how much experience, but if you don't treat that thing with respect, it can bite you in the ass. You can get taken a rip, and that's like booze, like that. If you abuse it and disrespect it, trust me, it will beat the shit out of you. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it was like for me. It was just not respecting my opponent.
I see. So you have no ill will towards alcohol?
No, not at all. And I'm happy to talk about it, and I never mean to demonize it. But it just does demonising things, and I explain it. So it sometimes comes across that I will be dead against alcohol, and I'm not. I'm just telling you the truth for the point, and it's only because I've educated myself on it and been down rabbit holes with regards to it and all that business. So it's not that I'm against it, but it just doesn't have any pros for me anymore. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing where I go, now that I've looked in that mirror, that proverbial mirror, and I've been able to go, no, it's me. I can now go, okay, and I see what it does to other people. Not that it makes people go off wild, but I'm like, okay, it makes me go, right, okay. Like, I question it a little bit.
Well, what do you think a healthy relationship with alcohol looks like?
No relationship. I think that's scientifically I would agree. 100%.
Sinead doesn't drink at all.
But scientifically that is it. There's the new reports at the moment are now saying that it's zero drink, and I think that's the scary thing for people, because the option is that you don't drink and you have to deal with your shit, and people don't want to do that, and that's something that I've found massively, and I don't mean that in a bad way, and saying that people have got these demons that they need to go out and fix. But what I'm saying is that I think we all struggle with a bit of anxiety, and that's okay. And it's about being like asking the question of why do I struggle with this anxiety? What do I not feel is good enough for the rest of the people in the room that makes me have to reflect on that and drink to feel calm, to feel that I can speak to people and be okay. I think that's hard to do. It makes you sweat. Like just because I quit drinking didn't mean that I suddenly got rid of my depression and anxiety. If anything, it got a bit worse, because I was singling myself out as this person who didn't do what the rest of the world did, or the Western world did. But then I did the work, and it's got a lot better, to the point where this weekend I've just been at a winery all weekend with friends, and I've not drank a single drop, and I wasn't bothered by it. And you've got to remember, and like I say to people when they ask for like a bit of guidance and help, is, what if they're asking me questions and all that? And I always say, that's on them. That's not your problem. They're doing that because you're going against the normality of it. So you need to be able to put your kind of mentality within them a little bit and go, okay, they're just trying to figure it out so that they don't feel anxious about the situation and all that kind of stuff, I think.
So do you guys think that people drink because of their underlying factor of social anxiety or escapism?
I think there'll be a lot. I think if you were to look, I don't think everybody will. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just being like that kind of person, being like, everybody's dealing with problems if you drink. Not saying that, but what I'm saying is I think it takes the pressure off having to address yourself and social aspects.
Because there's also like an art to it, right? Like there's wine connoisseurs.
I think people that take it to excess, like people that take it to the extremes, I believe are probably trying to escape something uncomfortable that they don't want to deal with, which is different to someone that's just going out and having 2 glasses of wine with dinner with their friends.
100%.
Like, which is most of my friends. Most of my friends drink, but that's it. It's a couple
and I guarantee you'll see some friends as well, if it's like a boozy brunch or something like that, there'll be always that, and this might be throwing some people like under the bus there, but it's just like, there's always that one friend.
Yeah.
I was that one friend.
I too.
Like,
you know what I mean?
You all had one and the next minute they're like half asleep and you're like, yo, what's with her? I was just having a convo and now she's gone.
Yeah.
Or like,
it's like, and the sad part of it is like, or they vomit or something bad happens to them, and you start getting that label of, oh well, it's her. You know, it's them. Yeah. It's them. That's down to, like, that's just what they're like.
Yeah.
And the point is it shouldn't be what they're like.
Yeah.
There's other shit going there, and we need to ask them and say, it's all right. Like, you don't, if this situation of coming out tonight doesn't make you feel comfortable, that's okay. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
So you can drink with like 2 glasses then just because it's fun.
And you enjoy the taste.
Because you enjoy the taste.
Yeah.
So that is a healthy relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, there's things now I miss with alcohol, even though I'll be like, I know it's not good for me, but I used to love whiskey because I like the taste, and I used to love red wine because I like the taste of red wine. For me now, like when it's like drinking non-alcoholic stuff, I'm like, well, first of all, I'm like, what's the point? I'm not going to get drunk. And secondly, it's some of it just doesn't have the taste there. I'm like, there's much tastier drinks out there than a non-alcoholic beer.
And it's just as expensive too, to be honest. Jesus, those beers. And
just to clarify again, I think that would be a healthy relationship, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's like healthy for you. Like we said, the science is pretty clear that like 0%.
I understand the science is clear. But humans are not as clear as that.
It's the same with food. So someone that's had like, again, an eating disorder of some kind, someone could look at them and be like, oh my God, you're eating chocolate or donuts, that's bad for you. But if someone that's had like gone from one extreme of having an eating disorder where they've not allowed themselves any of those foods, then probably having pizza now and again is probably a healthy thing for them.
And that's what I mean. We all know that processed food just isn't good for us.
Yes.
We know that for sure, right?
Yeah.
But yet, like, we don't demonize it. Not that we're saying we're demonizing that, but, you know, there's healthy relationships with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not
which
so
will look
much.
different
It's
for
not.
everyone.
It's not.
Meanwhile, someone that
some alcohol or no alcohol. Right. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, what is a healthy relationship with it?
I think it's being able to, that you are not run by, I think healthy relationship with it is not being run by it.
It sounds like you're in a surplus
of you.
Yes, completely. And that it's, and I think that it's 100% that. I think if you can keep it in check, and I think you can rein it back, and that it's not like we were saying early on, that you go for one drink and then suddenly it becomes 2, and then it becomes like that. It doesn't snowball. Do you know what I mean? But there is a science behind that as well. There's reasons why it snowballs, because what you do is you have your one drink, it does immediately that you have the high of alcohol, but that lasts 10 to 20 minutes. Now if you think of that, that's around about one drink. So once you do that, what happens after you've had that first drink is you get a huge hit of cortisol. So then your stress hormone kicks in. And then obviously if you're stressed, what did you do beforehand when you were stressed? You got another drink. So that's why it's normally a struggle to just have one drink when you say you're going to have one. You then go, oh, I'm stressed now. And those things that I was worried about before are creeping back, but they've got a bit more weight to them now. So, right, I'll have another one because now the missus is getting, I should have been home an hour ago and I'm not home. So there's more stress added to it. So then you have another one because so that's where...
So if you're drinking to excess, or drinking can become a symptom of, for example, like an insecurity, then that is an unhealthy relationship with it?
It's a big one. I think it is, but you have to be patient with yourself, and you've got to be able to see that for that. I think a lot of the time people don't see it for that. They just see it as like, oh no, I drink, but this keeps happening when I drink. I keep shouting at people, or I keep being argumentative. But it's that only can change when you put the mirror back on yourself and go, why do I keep falling out with my friends when I'm out? Why do I keep spending all my money when I'm out? Do you know what I mean? Because I think that's another aspect of it as well. Like, geez, I've never been so poor than when I was drinking, because you end up just like it.
Too fucking right.
Yeah,
too right. I want to go back to when you were at AA.
Yes.
So you were there for 12 weeks.
Yes.
Were you sober for 12 weeks?
Yep. Yeah. So It was good. There was a couple of people there because you can have like a sponsor.
Yeah.
So that's somebody who will just like kind of give you support and be your... And there was an option there, but I was extremely lucky with my partner. She was really good, very supportive. I didn't feel like I need it. I did everything as well. When I wanted to get sober, I threw the kitchen sink at it. Like I was already counselling, like seeing a therapist. I was doing the AA. I'd started at a new gym. I was like, fuck. I was like,
perfectionistic tendencies.
Yeah, I was trying to zen out, and I was like, right, what do I bought like Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Like I was doing it all, breath work, like hot yoga, and I've got like my mobility from rugby is like the mobility of a brick. So yoga was interesting, but I did everything, like getting in cold showers, all that business. Which was, yeah, so I did everything I possibly could. I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it properly. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. What were some key learnings, key takeaways from AA?
Key takeaways. My key takeaway of that is that I don't have to be defined by a label. That was my biggest one. And that was something that I was quite happy that I could not think, and actually I was lying to myself. I could think it and be like, no, I'm not defined by that, because I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to, crack on with it a little bit and all that stuff.
So it sounds like you went through a whole like identity, whole routine change at least over that next 12 weeks.
Completely, because I think my identity was alcohol.
Yeah.
Because I was that was me every weekend. Like I didn't know who I was without it. So and that's like at the AA, I felt like I literally turned up to that room and I was naked. Because I was just like laid bare. I didn't know who I was at all without partying every weekend, because that's what I did. That's what I lived for. I lived for the weekend. So then I had to work out, what do I do with my weekends now? What do I do? Like what do I like? I don't even know what I like. I used to like shots. You know what I mean? No, I don't. I can't have shots. Like, so what do I do?
So 12 weeks is finished at AA.
Yeah.
Never look back. Did you ever get tempted to go back? And did you go back? Did you relapse?
Oh yeah, so I did a year. So I managed to get through it. I didn't ever relapse. And it was funny. I did that kind of 12 weeks there, and that's my 3 month mark. And then my hardest months were the 3rd to 5th month. And that's where I tend to, when I'm speaking to people, that's where I tend to see that they struggle the most. Because you've got to remember, when you first initially do it, obviously your environment changes, all these changes happen to you. And initially a lot of friends are very supportive. They're like, that's great, like, oh, well done, and all this business. But then the parade stops and you're kind of left there a bit like, well, why am I doing this? Before I was doing it to... And there was part of it I was doing it for myself, but I also wanted to do it for my partner. I wanted to do it for my friends around me. And then once they stopped like kind of cheering you on as loudly, they're still there in support, but it wasn't like every weekend I was seeing like, well done and all that, and the questions stop a little bit. And you just think, why am I doing this? Like, this is hard. But everybody else is still continuing, going out, partying and all that. And then you feel very kind of isolated. And I felt very lonely, and I was just like, I don't know where I fit in with the world a little bit, because the Western world is so drink-oriented. Well, I say the Western world, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, America, there's that kind of mentality of that's what you do. So yeah, that kind of 3 to 5 was hard. That was my hardest.
How did you get through it? Did you have to find new friends during that time?
Yeah, so I wasn't seeing my partying mates as much, but I was still good. But my mates didn't really change, because I started hanging around with my partner's mates a bit more and stuff. But I just had to go to the abyss a little bit, and I had to go to that kind of the depths of who I was, and not see it as such a strenuous task, but one that should be exciting and fulfilled. Like, this is time to get fulfilled now properly, and be able to piece what I actually want out of life and stuff. So I did a lot of reading, a lot of well-being kind of books and stuff like that. I was a huge I was really big into like talk down meditations, and I was getting and affirmations and stuff like that. I was big, and to me that was like such a weird concept, because I was like this rugby lad and all. Well, no, we don't do that. What are you on about? Whereas suddenly, like, I was just saying, oh, I am loved. I am happy, and it worked for me. It worked, and it doesn't. So then So I had to do a lot of reflecting. I had to find
and
that
you
solace.
must have been in a better mental state to be able to do that, like to do the inner work like that, to that level, to that depth.
I was lucky as well. I say lucky, but it was our second wave of being locked in for COVID. So I was on my own a lot, so I had the time to do this, and I could go away for an hour and just zen out a little bit.
A lot of people would have just relapsed.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
What was your why?
Oh,
what was the pillar point for you to lean on and be like, you know what? Nah, I'm not gonna get a box of honeys.
Yeah, I think my partner. I didn't want to let her down was my biggest one. It become more of a service thing, whereas I needed to do it for her, and that made her happiness made me happy. We'll
love heart. But no, we'll get you, bro.
Yeah, but I did, and that gave me, that gave me happiness, and I just started realizing I was so much happier without it. Like it wasn't going to bring me happy. It wasn't going to help in any way for my mentality. It wasn't going to help me to be happier. It wasn't going to help me to deal with how sad I was feeling or lonely I was feeling. I had to deal with that and be like, find who that was, like why I was feeling lonely and stuff.
There's that quote, when the pain of change outweighs the pain of staying the same, then you'll change.
Yeah, and exactly.
When you're sick and tired of your shit.
Yeah, sick and tired of being sick and tired. 100%. And I think, so like with quotes as well, like you're saying, then like it was Einstein that said that if insanity is thinking that change will come by doing the same thing. And you see that a lot. You see that a lot in all aspects, in all vices, not just booze, but you see it in everything. Do you know what I mean? Training and stuff like that. You see people think, if I keep doing this, if I keep going smashing the gym and doing it this way, that I'm suddenly gonna. I'm going to look $1 million. It's like, and they've done it for years like that, and you're like, But it's hard to accept, because then you're asking them to look in the mirror again, and people don't want to do that all the time.
So you looked in the mirror, you did some inner work, you got real down, you got real deep. What did you find out about yourself that you didn't necessarily know beforehand? What were some beliefs that were shaken up?
That's a good one, that, mate. I don't know. I think that I was scared. Scared of the world, I think, was a hard one. And I think that most of my life had been out of fear of not being liked, not being needed, not being loved a little bit. And I think that was something that I had to accept that might... And to be honest, mate, it's been something that, even now, just because I'm sober, it still creeps in. There's always been like a bit of a void within me a little bit. And I think it's not helped by social media telling me that I need to be 6'4", with a six-pack, with $1 million house, with all this money and all this. And I just think that's... and then that pursuit of that means that you miss out on life a little bit, and it's only something I've read recently, because literally even just the Friday just gone, I was in tears in my car, because I was just like, I'm chasing all this, I'm doing it all right, I'm doing everything right, I'm doing the cold showers every morning, I'm doing bits of breath work when I really need it, I'm going to the gym, and it's just not fitting in. Why not? And it's because I keep putting these things on pedestals that I'm gonna, if I do it, that brings happiness, and it doesn't, because I'm constantly thinking ahead, and it's out, and that is out of what I've learned from being on that kind of 3 to 5 month path, is that's a complete flight response. That's me living in fear of what's...
Anxiety is as well. Anxiety is that
projection of the future
that's not even happened yet.
Exactly, and it's thinking, right, okay, well, if I do this is all going to make I'm going to be safe.
And that's looking for happiness externally too, right?
Yeah, no, completely. And I think it's, I'm a big... That was one thing I took out of it, is you can't chase happiness. And I pursue, that was one thing that I did for ages. I tried to chase it, like, and the harder I ran after it, the further away it got. It was very much the carrot on the stick. But when I could settle myself and just get into the moment and just be, that was when I was free and I was more accepting of who I was and could give myself love and give myself care and be all right and accept the fact that it might never get better than this. My mental health may never ever get better than this. I might always have that void in the back, but as soon as you can accept that, then you can live with that. Do you know what I mean? A little bit. So as soon as you can accept that, and that was something I struggled with, is that I was so deeply upset and stoic all the time that I was trying to chase the happiness. But as soon as I thought this might be as good as it ever is, and my mental health might never change from this, it was like a weight came off my shoulders, because I wasn't having to try and get something that didn't exist. This was just it, and I could just be a little bit. Do you know what I mean? A human being. Do you know what I mean?
What strategies do you have in your routine to help upkeep that kind of mindset?
Strategies that I have is, I don't know if I have any. I did have strategies at the start, definitely. There was definitely, for me, if you're trying to stay sober and not drink, you have to treat it like a marathon, not a sprint, and that's why so many people fuck up when it comes up to dry July and they only do 2 weeks and go, oh, why have I fallen off? It's because they've not prepped. They think it's easy, and it's not, because it's something that you do every weekend normally. So I think most of it was having that kind of fallout tactic. So it was about like understanding what drinks I liked, without not that weren't alcoholic. It was about having a plan a little bit of, if I was going to a social event, and understanding myself. Am I tired? Right, I am a bit tired. So just talk to who you need to. Do your little schmoozing about. But once you're done, it's okay to go. But also I had a get out plan as well. I think that was important, because sometimes when you're feeling that anxious kind of, oh, everybody's about, and I feel like if I leave they're going to judge me, oh no.
That's definitely a thing.
But I think if you can either set something up for the day after, that really helps, because it gives you an excuse to leave. So then you don't feel
gotta go, I'm getting up early in the morning.
So it makes you feel not so bad about it. But also I always say, give yourself a time to go. I think if you even if it's early, if you can give yourself a go, do you know what, I'm just going to do till 10 or 9. Do you know what, I've had a busy week this week. My own well-being and health is more than this. I can always catch up with somebody another time. Do you know what I mean? And I think as soon as you can do that and then give yourself that kind of get-out plan, then it feels good. And then especially if you plan something the next day that is going to add to you. So I work on a big thing that I speak to people with, is having checking out your internal and external and what kind of brings you. And usually what you tend to find is people who are dead flustered and their life's getting a little bit fucked is because everything's always external. They're always giving energy to people like it's free. Do you know what I mean? I need to give myself to this and this and this. But I think as soon as you can equal that out and go, for every external thing that I do, I have to do one internal. So whether that's a run, meditation, walk, chill, sleep in, have a light in. Do you know what I mean? So if you can do something the next day which is going to add to you rather than take away from you, I think is the biggest plus. If you can go, right, I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, or I'm going to go and see family. I've not seen family in ages. I'm going to go and do that, and that's where not drinking adds to all it. When people say, oh, what does not drinking give to you? It's like, okay, well, now I can spend that time on a Sunday with friends and family, or add to that. I can do something which I can start I'm going to do a side hustle. I'm going to start doing that. I've got the energy to do that now, rather than wishing that I could do it and blaming the world for not having it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Whenever we need to, even when I go out to a social event, I always touch on it. Oh, fuck, I've got to at least pick up a 0% of something. I've got to have something in my hand, and it can't be water. So for me, I even hide the fact that it's a 0% pals. Because people are like, oh, pals, oh yeah, he's on it, you know. I'm hiding the fact that I'm not drinking.
Pals is quite good though now when you look at their stuff, because they've actually started marketing their stuff with pretty much the same can, so you can barely see it. Whereas unlike other ones, I know what you're saying obvious. Is when you get it's blue, this is no alcohol, and then people feel like there's this need to be able to, that it's okay to ask why you're not.
Yeah, it's almost as if you're
I don't like-
parading it, aren't you?
Yeah, but
You're
and
welcoming
this is
the
what I'm saying.
questions,
So
yeah.
what you're saying here for yourself is that anxiety of those questions coming, those thoughts. So none of this exists yet because you've not even been at this social event, but that's creeping in a little bit.
Yes.
But what you need to then go and do is flip the switch on that and be like, why are they asking me that? And you start taking the power away from that anxiety that it's giving you, but giving it back to yourself, because you go, oh, maybe they're asking me because they're feeling anxious about me not drinking.
Yeah.
Maybe that, and then
Because you're somewhat holding up a mirror to them.
yeah,
in a way.
completely.
Yeah.
And they're going, are they judging? And all that, when they're asking you about that, and they're saying, oh yeah, why are you not drinking? Or, oh, you're like this, you're like that. It's because you're changing their expectation of their own night. Because they've already got a preconception that they're going to go out on a session, everybody's going to be on the same level as them, and they can get fucked. So if they see this one glitch in the corner, which is you not drinking, they're going to go, oh, hang on, that's my night suddenly changed because that person's not doing what that preconceived idea. So that as soon as you can take that power back away from the situation and give it to yourself and go, oh yeah, this is because they're maybe a little bit nervous, or that they've got that makes my drinking makes them feel uncomfortable. Obviously, you're not going to be a dickhead and go, oh, do I make you feel uncomfortable?
I've done that before.
Yeah.
I've been at weddings where I've been like constantly pressured by the same people, and I've just
And
been,
that's
and they've been
perfect.
like, come on, like it's so-and-so's wedding, come on, and I've just turned them and been like, I don't need alcohol to enjoy myself tonight. Like, I don't know, like they're like, oh.
So
And I'm
and
just
it's
sort of
funny
like,
how
goodbye.
you see people like go
Yeah.
into themselves, and I think sometimes when people are pressuring you, I remember
Yeah.
going to something a while back now, and this person was like, oh, why? Like quite a few of us weren't drinking. My partner wasn't drinking, and she's not actually drinking at the moment. But she got asked why her friend wasn't drinking because she had something to get. And this girl was like really like it was bad. Like she was like really bad, and she was like, "Why are you not drinking? So why are you not drinking?" It's like I don't need to. Like that, and you just see her
can
be
still
like, she's like, oh, right, okay, and exactly, it's like, do your own thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying you don't.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you can.
You go hard, and I will judge you.
Did you ever go through a phase where you're like, actually, I'm not going to go to any social events? Did you,
Oh.
just hibernate and?
Yeah, well, I was like I said, I was kind of lucky with COVID, so that, and it was weird. I don't know if you had the same kind of feelings, but when we all came out of lockdown a little bit, everybody was all a bit anxious about how to socialise again. Like
Yeah.
everybody was a bit like,
Yeah.
hello, good
Hi.
day.
Yeah.
Robotic as fuck.
Yeah. So everybody was the same boat as me a little bit, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, there was definitely times where I just had to listen and just be like, it was okay, accept that it was okay to say no to stuff.
Yeah.
That's a big thing I had to
Yeah.
work with, is accepting just to say no to
Yeah.
stuff, because by not saying no, it meant that I was only going to give 50% to that situation. Whereas if I just had a sleep that night and a good rest, I knew I'd be able to give 100% the next day,
Yeah.
or 75 the next day.
Yeah. Or I think as well, sometimes, I think if you're thinking about going to a social event, but then you're thinking, oh, I'm going to have to drink, like, do you really want to go then? Like, would you go to that social event if you weren't drinking? And if so, it's like, well, do you actually enjoy the company that's going to be there and da da? Whereas, because like, I know if it's like my friends and I'm doing something fun and I want to go, there's no question about it. But if I was going to an event where I didn't really know anyone and it was all going to be unfamiliar and I'm a bit like, oh, I don't really know these people, I don't know if I want to go, like, yeah, I wouldn't feel as bad saying no. Sometimes, I guess it depends on, like you said, as well, your energy levels, how tired you're feeling. If I have the energy to go out and socialise with people I don't know and have to really be putting myself out there. But
Yeah, no, definitely.
Did you find you lost friendships?
I wouldn't say lost friendships. They just didn't. I suddenly became a real. I understood what getting sober made me understand how precious time was, and I reflected. There was a lot of times I looked back and was like, "Why did I drink for so long? Why did I do that for so long and waste that much time when I could have been as happy as I am now?" So there was definitely times, but that was my biggest fear. One of my biggest friends was losing, because I was such a needy person. I was so scared of losing friends, and I didn't lose friends. I don't think you generally lose friends, but they just have different values, and you have to accept that, and that's okay. I don't judge them for that. I'm happy that they do that. They're like, but also exactly what you're saying. You go out with those friends, and you're just thinking, this isn't. adding to me, and people the conversation starts going dry when people repeat themselves or get louder. Do you know what I mean? And you're just like, oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna go home and get my 8 hours now. Bye, everybody.
Like, are you going now? It's like, yeah, you said that about an hour ago. It's like, yeah, it's boring, and it is boring, and that's the thing. And I think that's it, and again, it's that thought process that we go through when you start putting the onus on other people, going, oh, am I gonna lose friends? Like what? And it's not about that. It should be like, oh, maybe I don't need them in my life. It's not about them not needing you. It's about you maybe not needing them a little bit. And it's about, well, if it's boring, do you know what I mean? It's like, well, I want to do fun things. I want to have good moments.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I went through a stint of sobriety, and whenever I would go back to my Saturday night friends, I would have this sense of like resentment because, you know, I didn't want to be a part of it, yet I was still there. And what helped me manage those types of feelings was that, like, okay, cool, I have my Saturday night friends, I can accept them for who they are because I know what to expect from them. Just in the same way, like, I have my gym friends.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's not like I'll go to my gym friends and try to talk about business.
Yeah.
Otherwise, of course, I'm going to resent them.
Otherwise,
it's my fault for putting myself in that situation. So I get what you mean, but also saying you don't necessarily lose friends, but you are more clear about where your time goes.
Yes.
So, like, if I'm going to spend time with my Saturday night friends, I'm not going to hate you for repeating yourself 5 times. I put myself in this situation.
Yeah, and then
I always expect that from you now.
And sometimes, you know what, even if you are going, say if you're doing all like therapist and all the good stuff that you're told to do, sometimes you need to just go, I need a fucking blowout. Do you know what I mean? But you know that now that you can just phone your Saturday night friends and just go, well, they're going to be on it, so I can go and just do it, let off some steam, but then... Although you might feel like absolutely even worse the next day, but that's on you. Do you know what I mean? That's for you to figure that one out. But
I think I went to that phase because I sort of stopped drinking like 19, 20, but then from there it was always once or twice a year. I would have a fuck at night and be like, yep, we're all getting on
and
it.
Would you
and
go
going
like,
ham.
like Hundy P?
And I'd go Hundy P, as in like wake up in the morning still fully dressed with my heels on, and being like where are we? Whose house? And being like, where are we? Whose place is this? What happened? They're like, oh my god, you were hilarious last night. You were so funny. And I'm like, was I? Because I don't remember anything from like the first bar. And like, you got kicked out, but it was so funny, and you and the Uber were so funny. And that always, like, the next day I was like, this is why I don't drink. Like, and I'd always feel shit the next day, and I'd be full of regret because I never obviously knew what happened or what I did or whatever. And they would always be like, this is why you don't do it, Sinead. And then so it would always get less and less. It went from like once every 6 months to then once a year to then just being like, no, I can go out and have a fun time with my friends. I don't need to get on it. Like, I can still go out, dance, have a boogie, and be like, you know, it's 10 p.m. laters. I know that, you know, the conversation's only going to be the same from here on in. And you're all going to only get more and more smashed.
Depending, like, what kind of friends it is as well. Like, you end up being, like, the person to pick up the pieces. Like,
so it's usually like,
okay, come on, let's get you to a cab.
So then, just got to my mind, I was like, actually, don't need to. And if it's something that I felt the need to drink, it's like, well, then I probably shouldn't be going in that situation. If it was a place where I felt like I wasn't going to be accepted for not drinking, I was like, well, why am I putting myself in that situation? If I'm going somewhere with people that I don't really know or people that are all drinking and that they're going to give me shit for not drinking, why would I want to put myself in that situation?
Exactly. And I like you were saying before, like with that change of friends, I think if that is a reoccurring thing, then you're just like, well, why do I... Exactly what you're saying. Why do you want to put yourself in that situation? If it's not bringing you joy and happiness... Like, we don't know how long we're on this planet for, so why put yourself in a situation that firstly makes you feel anxious before you go, then when you're in that environment, makes you feel like you don't belong. It's like, well, hang on. The only person that can change this is me. Do you know, they can have it. Like, it's all right.
If you were to put yourself back into those moments where you were at your lowest points, what do you wish someone would have said or done for you?
That's a good one. There's a lot of moments where I think I wish somebody had just shown me the way a bit earlier. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wish I'd had like because there was a couple of friends. I had a good friend back in the UK who had like a bit of an issue. It changed up and he sorted himself out, and I just didn't acknowledge it. I think it's a real interesting one with booze because it's on you. Like, booze and drugs, it's completely on you, and I don't think you should you can have the best people around you, but unless you're willing to change, that isn't like you ain't gonna change.
Yeah, there has to be enough of an emotional charge for you to change. It just doesn't. Otherwise, why do anything? Why change anything if things are comfortable? If things are all good, right?
Exactly, and especially if everybody else around you is doing it as well. Like it's like, well, why do it? Do you know what I mean? But I think it's a very personal journey with it. I think, and it's very different for different people. But I think it has to. There's nothing. I'm glad everything has happened to me, 100%, because I wouldn't be so appreciative of life now if it hadn't. If I'd been only an okay drinker and it didn't really affect me and I could control myself, I wouldn't be doing all the like nice, cool things that I'm doing now and really like valuing life a bit more than I think I would have been if I'd just been a generic drinker. Like, oh yeah, do you know what I mean? I always I think like I have like a real kind of detachment point of view sometimes where I can like separate myself from myself a little bit and just see the broader picture, and it's such a bubble, alcoholism in general, like especially socially. I remember going to watch after New Zealand girls beat England girls.
How good! For us anyway, bro. How good we were there too.
Well, it was so one of my friends, her mate plays for England, so we went to the bar afterwards and seen it, and it was funny. I had this really out of body experience where I was just sat there. All the England girls were like partying away and just like drinking their woes away and stuff, and everybody was kind of stuff, and the music was the same from when I used to drink. There was people in there I recognised from when I used to go and drink, because it was like an open bar a little bit as well. So, and there was people I recognised who didn't recognise me because they were so drunk, and I just thought nothing has changed here in three. It was like the Twilight Zone. Nothing had changed. People were listening to the same music in the same place at the same time, with the same attitude, getting into the same position that they were going to do the next day. And I wasn't being judgmental of that, but I just thought, like deeply observing it, thinking, God, I used to do this so much, and it's just night and day compared to like, now I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I have a 24 hours that I can do whatever I want with, pretty much. But the thing is, what you do as well when you're kind of observing in that kind of way is for me, I realised that nobody else realised that. And that was odd. That's odd because it's the normal. Nobody could see it for what it was. There, they were just like, "Hey, I'm listening to the Killers or something," and then they're just partying away, doing the same shit, and they were happy, and that's all good. They were happy, but for me, it just didn't depict happiness anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, what I'm hearing from based on our conversation so far is that one, you've got to get so sick of the same old shit, and then two, find something that's going to be more valuable than what you were doing.
Yes, 100%, nail on the head. Yeah.
Let's say we've got someone right now is listening, and they know of a friend who is abusing drugs and alcohol, and they want to. They don't know how to approach this conversation. Yeah. What advice would you give them?
One is just be there. I think sometimes you've kind of got to watch from afar. And you've got to get in tune with it a bit more. Start kind of clocking how their drinking patterns. Start seeing what they do after their drinking patterns. So on the Sundays, and do they completely go in on themselves? Do they come out, or are they still quite sociable? Can they come out and all that stuff? But I think just being there, and I think if it's getting to a real crux where you see them really fucking up, or you see them like their relationship like is being affected by or stuff like that, I think the best thing to do is rip the plaster off and talk to them and just say like, I'm here. I don't know if you get, and if they get, I might have been a bit aggy when I think about it, but I think you've just got to be blunt with it. Like I think when I was that, if somebody would come up to me being like that, and I did have people say that to me and be like, I'm a bit concerned, like you need, and they were there and they saw me upset, but then I'd go and do it the following week. It is a personal journey, but afterwards, once I got myself sober, I've met up with people and said like, thank you for being there. It's not that I didn't notice it was there, it's just that I had to do it. Do you know what I mean? So I think I think it's a different aspects as well of it. It depends what that kind of person, like what their drinking pattern's like, what they're doing. Massively suggest the AA. Even though I only did 12 weeks, it works, and there's a reason it's been there for so long and stuff. And I just think it's good to surround yourself, like, get in check with your environment and stuff. But I would just show them love, you know? Do you know what I mean? When people are really abusing drugs and alcohol, I think it comes out of a place of not having a lot of love there. And I think it's the quickest way of escapism, alcoholism. It's the quickest way you can go from being here, reality, in half an hour, you will not be there. So I think if you can just show them love as much as you can, whatever that is as well, whatever your version of love is, whether that's telling them or whether that's going round and just making food for them and just going round and give your way in and just say, do you know what, come round for dinner, or go to them, take them food round and go, and while you're having dinner just broach the subject a bit and just go, is everything all right, like is it like, what is the, do you know what I mean? I think a little bit.
Because at the very least, even if they don't make that change the day after or the week after or month after, at least that seed is there.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
What you did. Like maybe your friend said something to you, but that didn't click for you until later down the track.
And you can't.
And then you're like, oh fuck, now I'm gonna say thank you. Now I get it.
Yeah. And you can't force it. You can't force it. Like, and you've got a bit. There's so many different variants on alcoholism and AUD, but you have to, and I'll just say AUD is alcohol usage disorder, and I say that because it gives them more of a, they don't use alcoholic anymore. AUD is kind of like the terminology because, and I think it's the best because there is a different spectrum to people's abuse of it, basically. So yeah, and I just think, just be there, give them, it depends where they are with it, but I think if you can show them love firstly and just be there, but then and just show as much support as you can. I think it's, if you think that it's getting to the point of the AA and they're comfortable enough to talk about that, be that person to go with them to the AA as many times as they need you to and stuff. But then also, it's hard as well. You got to check in with your own energy, and if you can give that, because it's a lot of work. And when people, especially with drugs and drink, they they lie to you, and it's not them. I think if you understand that it's not really them, it's their ego, and what that, for me it was anyway, is it wasn't that I didn't appreciate the love that I was being given at the time, but I just couldn't accept it because it's not what my ego wanted. I had to have like a big ego death before. I love that, the ego death. It's it was big for me, that. So I had to go through that, and now the ego still creeps in, but that's like because I did like a seminar, like a 6-week seminar, and that's one of the things that's the first thing I touch upon is ego. I think it's the biggest one, and I think it's like imagine your ego like a puppy dog, and you have it from birth. And now it's how you treat that puppy dog as you grow up. So whether it gets abused or whether, like, and if you don't look after it and train it well, your ego, it will either run off and go off and do it, or it will be too protective of you. And I think you've got to find that middle ground with it. And I think with alcoholism, it's when you've got that lead too short and that ego becomes more of a guard dog for yourself and overly protects you. So then you end up hurting people in the long run and stuff like that. And I just think, ego's a big one. I try and break that down. A lot of people, when I've had other people come up to me and speak to me about drinking, I'd say to them, it's like, you can hear the ego before they even start. They're going, oh yeah, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's I've got this and I've got that, and I think it's like, that's okay, that's all right, but I need you to drop that. And when they, because you say ego, they think that means that they're louder than life, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's just this character that you're putting up there to protect you, and that's okay, and that's what I mean by it. It's not that it's this malicious character or person, but it's a character that we put out that we want the world to see and accept, rather than ourselves, because we've been hurt before by past traumas or other things that have gone on in our lives that have meant that we've had to develop this armour against the world and society as we know it, and social media, where we think we've got to put out this, and then that means that we'll be okay, and then you see people get real deeply upset, and when that happens, their true self, I think, that's when you see these drugs and alcohol really goes far, because their true self isn't happy with the ego that is being put out there a little bit.
So we've talked about the friend who knows someone who could be going through abuse. what advice would you give to someone who could be listening to this right now and being like, holy shit, this is me. It's talking about me. I could have a problem.
Yeah, I would say if you think that you might have a problem, you probably have.
Yeah.
Which is hard to accept, but that's part of like ego death a little bit. You've got to accept it to move on. It's like the first step at the AA as well, is that they touch upon it, is that that's what you have to kind of accept that and kind of what I touched upon before as well, like as soon as you accept that where you are, you can move then. But I think, yeah, if you've got it, and I think there's support out there and you will be okay, I think is the biggest thing. I think if you think it and you can do it, then go and do it a little bit, and you will be all right. There's options out there. There's more people like myself out there. There's groups out there. There's every excuse to do it. Do you know what I mean? And even if it's from a couple of drinks a week to like bottle of vodka every day, there's somebody out there to help you, although you might not think it. But you have to do the work as well. That's the biggest one. The world isn't going to come and save you. It isn't. So you have to go and do it. If you're willing to put the work in, you usually get it back tenfold, and it comes back with good interest. Do you know what I mean? But you have to be willing to separate yourself from that kind of that finance of it, and go and be like, okay, I'm willing to accept it back, and it does come back. Like, it does help, and you make new connections and new friends and people who are aligned to what you actually want rather than what your ego wants.
Yeah, I like what you just said there about finding people that are more aligned to you. I think the fastest way to change your habits is to change your environment.
Yes.
Right, and like really audit what models you have around you, what type of role models, what kind of patterns are being modeled around you. Because if you want to hang out with people who do shit on the weekends and if you want to be someone that goes and does shit on the weekends, it's not being hungover, and go find people who are already doing that, you know?
or go to that environment that's, say, just already there, and there'll be other people in there at the same time as you, and then all you've got to do is just broach a conversation. People are very happy to talk. Do you know what I mean, generally? And I think it doesn't take much we all feel very isolated, and I think after COVID that was hit home as well, is that everybody felt very isolated and didn't know, but we're all good people. The world isn't that bad. Do you know what I mean? We're more than happy to be like, hey, you alright? Like, is this your first time here? Let's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're social creatures, we adapt. And
that's why we've got so far.
Exactly. I just want to pivot now, bro, from alcoholism. So you've got a social media, Right Mate NZ. You openly talk about your experience. We have this thing, I'm not too sure if it's the same in the UK, but definitely prevalent in New Zealand and Australia, with like tall poppy syndrome.
Yes.
Right? And but you go hard at creating the content too. Did you ever have like friction on, talking about this kind of taboo stuff, or being perceived as that guy who's just always making content? Or how did you get over that?
I think I think it all happened after that ego death kind of moment, and I think after you get to that, it's like, this is just for me now, and I do not give a fuck. Do you know what I mean? And you go, what have I got? Like, judge me hard, like judge me as much as you can. Watch. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I got to a point where I was like, this is my truth. This is what is making me happy. I like putting the content. It's helping my creativity by putting this content out there. It's helping me by helping others. That makes me happy as well. So if you want to judge me and go and do that, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it is bad here. New Zealand's real bad for tall, and I don't get it. I don't know what the interest is with cutting people down all the time. Especially because you really don't need to. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's enough avenues here. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't even get it that much in the UK, and there's like 65 million people there.
True,
you've got 5 million people here. Like, there's avenues here. There's options. Stop. Like, there's like, build your mates up. Fuck, everybody I talk to now, generally, the new connections I've made, all I'm ever doing is like saying how proud I am of them, and it's not out of because I want anything from them. It's just because it's great seeing people succeed. Like, we watch documentaries on people who succeed all the time.
Yeah, true. Why do we not do that about our mates?
Yeah, completely.
True.
So,
you're fucking right.
like, if you're watching, like, all these people we put on these pedestals, and we're like, fuck, I want to be like that person. You've got a mate who's trying to do it. And then you're like, it's like, well, let them. They're like, do it and be part of their journey. Help them up there. Push them up there. And again, it's that investment in other people. So, like, it does come back to you, that shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like a pendulum. Like, you throw it out there and it comes back. So I think if you don't expect it, do it out of just love and all that. But anybody who's like that, who wants to judge, says more about the person judging than the person doing.
That is so true, bro. You're so right. The people will put like LeBron James on a pedestal, Kim Kardashian, and be like, love it, love that hustle. And when it comes to like the most closest friends doing it, they're the first ones to cut them down. That is so true.
Yeah, right. And I just think it's funny, and it's laughable. It is laughable because you just think, well, stop, focus on me. Don't focus on me.
Yeah.
Focus on your own shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise, while you're wasting time looking at other people, being like, I should be there, and don't get me wrong, I can still creep into that now a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I see things going right for other people, and it's easily done because we've been put into that world mentality, especially social media, where it's like, it's an iceberg, like Instagram and all that business, because you just see people just give you what they want you to see. They don't see them doing all this shit behind, like this, for instance. Like, you guys are going to be now like taking ages and doing all the hard work behind it. It doesn't just mad happen.
Yeah. We just got a couple more questions, bro, before we wrap up. First of all, where can people find you if they need the help? Either they need help or they have a friend that they want to go talk to and they need some advice.
I've got, I've started a business profile on Google, so you can look there. But generally, the best way to get me is through Rightmate NZ, where I'm more than happy to help. Like, I literally live for help giving tips, because I know what it's like when you feel like dog shit and you feel like you can't get out of that kind of space. So any tips, I'm more than happy to do. I also do one-on-ones, so if people are wanting more of kind of like that accountability and just need to get that focus and do that, I'm happy to do that. But just hit me up through that and whatever.
Actually, I've got an extra question, bro.
Yeah, that's all good. Go for it.
I've got an extra question now. For me, this conversation has been less about alcoholism and actually been more about self-development and personal growth. And really figuring out who you really are underneath all the patterns that have been given to you by society and the people around you. And you mentioned before that you did the 6-week seminar on ego death. What other tools have you used in your self-development journey that's made such a huge impact? Like, what is that 6-week seminar course?
So that was one I did. So I created it myself.
Oh, you created it yourself?
And then I did it for other people. And I just basically broke down my 6-week journey, like my 6-week journey, my journey without booze, and broke it down, and then looked at certain things throughout that time.
I see. So people can buy the 6-week course to try.
So I did it was like a seminar. So basically, it was like a webinar. I did it every Sunday for 6 weeks, and then people could. I did it for free, and then people could just sign up and they come on and I talk, and I did basically an hour talking about what the stages of it, and it's kind of funny. You could see the patterns of what I was going through the 6 weeks, but what I went through in the year. So initially, like the ego death, then it's about routine and looking at routine and what your general routine. Then it was environment. Then it was communication with yourself. Then it was the spiritual side of it a little bit, and going into that and that working on, like you're saying, like the inner stuff, and then the physicalization of it, going to a gym, getting your body, using your body, using the thing and all that business. So I did that. But then books were like the main thing that I look up. I'm obsessed with buying books now, and I've still got heaps that I've not read, but I'm like, oh, that looks good. Well, there's a monk doing something. I'll get that. So and you'll find that a lot of these books will copy and paste the same thing, but in a different way.
way.
So the base for me, the first one for me was Think Like a Monk. Was kind of like the one with training wheels. Basically, it's like kind of how to start understanding that reflective and all that business. But there's been heaps. A very good book is called The Tools. There's actually a documentary on Netflix with regards to that. And basically, it's a therapist in Jonah Hill on the documentary. And it's very, very good. And it gives you the tools to, when you're feeling anxious, when you've got like certain feelings that come in, rather than having to go through all your traumas and break it down and all that, it's just a great mental tricks to be able to counterbalance those thoughts and feelings at the time. So The Tools was very good. I'm currently reading 101 essays to change the way you think by Brianna Wiest, I think her name is, sorry. But there's heaps.
And what's a way to change the way you think? Good one. The biggest thing that helped me change the way I think was meditation and reflection, and then from that comes detachment. And a lot of these detachment's something that I didn't understand at the start. So if enough time. Originally, I did a talk down. I got into talk down. I wasn't doing well, so I did talk downs when I went to sleep. What's a talk down?
So it's like almost like a meditation talk down. So you can just put it on YouTube. Some of them last like 3 hours. Some of them last like fucking 10 minutes. And basically, you listen to it, and it's somebody just telling you to relax and all this stuff. But then there's some as well you can get, which is like, I am this, I am that, and it's just subconscious things that go into your brain. And there is like a bit of a science to it, like your theta brain waves and stuff, that it works. And no shit, there was one day I did this for like 3 weeks, and then one day I just woke up, mate, and I just was different. Like I felt like nothing mattered, but everything mattered at the same time. It was yin and yang completely, and I just felt like all those stresses of life and stuff just didn't matter, because it didn't matter. It mattered if I gave power to it mattering. And after that, then I things really took a change. Then from that, then I met my partner. Then I went on and then I kind of got on that journey. I'd always wanted a motorbike all my life. I suddenly was like able to afford a motorbike and all that, and it was all things like that kind of, and it was just a big shift. But I think the biggest, this books are the biggest one. It's I think. I'm a big believer in having a paper book that is there that you can always just refer back to, and I think it also is just better from like Kindles and stuff. I know Kindles are like everybody gets those kind of stuff, but I just think it gives you, you have to make a more conscious decision to turn a page and think about it and give your time. I think and again, it's not looking at a screen, which I think is just something that we. Yeah.
Do you journal?
No, I don't journal, but I kind of journal by having mate. Do you know what I mean?
I see, yeah.
So that's kind
your diary.
and it's funny. I recently reflected back to like my first videos, which is kind of like cringe, but also great, because I was just like, oh yeah, like, and I can see the development. Like it's a bit night and day of all those things that really worried me at the start, and I developed techniques then, whereas now I just don't think about them really. And if I do, I can always revert back. But I think books are good as well, because different authors will have different interpretations of the same thing, but just say it differently, and it could just click with you in a different book.
Yeah. Last question, bro. Yes. If you were to sit right now in front of Guy Wills, who is just about to go through AA, his partner has, left him, what advice would you give him?
I'd give him a big hug. And I'd say this is the best thing you're ever going to do in your life, 100%. And the advice I'd just get, I'd just say, just you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Like it's gonna be like. I wouldn't want to give too much away to him, because I'd want to be able to discover it. Do you know what I mean? I think this has been like, there's such a big fear of healing Like, and I kind of, that word annoys me a bit, and it's just like, oh, my healing phase and all that. I just think it's just fucking life. Crack on a little bit, but it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, or oh, I'm gonna give up booze and all that. It's just like, it just is. Just let it be. You'll be all good. Just do it to the best of your ability, and you'll be great.
Do you think too many people put too much meaning on top of
people
the
think
activity?
too much, mate?
Yeah.
People think too much, and I think because now as well we don't social. We think we socialise, but we don't socialise like we used to. Back, like, if you compared it to like 100 years ago, so I'd say that we barely socialise now, and we think a lot. And rather than discussing what our thoughts, we just put it in a post, or we take a picture that is going to help us hit that dopamine level that we need, rather than getting that dopamine hit out of a decent conversation with other people. And now we pay for more counsellors, or try and pay for counsellors if we can afford them, and therapists, whereas if we just talk to our friends sometimes. There's that good thing that they say there, is that sometimes you want a counsellor or therapist to tell you what you want to hear, whereas your friends will tell you what you want to hear, and the counsellor won't say anything. And I think that's but I think I just think if any advice, the advice I'd give is just stay on this track. Stay on this track. I literally wouldn't change it for the world. Don't get me wrong, it's not always perfect. I still get a bit lonely, isolated, but now I can handle my shit without having to fall back on anything. I can boss it.
Guy Wills, everybody. Amazing.